The rain battered the window of our cramped Brooklyn apartment, a relentless drumbeat that seemed to echo the chaos in my chest. I stood frozen, staring at the text on my phone from my roommate. "Caleb, I need you. Can you come home?" My heart lurched. Those words, raw and unguarded, weren't like him. I'd known Caleb Nguyen for 2 years. Ever since we'd split the rent on this shoebox of a place to survive New York's ruthless cost of living. He was the quiet one, the guy who'd sketch cityscapes in his notebook or hum old jazz tunes while cooking pho on Sundays. I was the loud one. Elliot Harper, aspiring playwright, always chasing dreams and dodging deadlines. We were opposites, yet somehow we fit. But tonight, something felt different. His text wasn't just a request. It was a plea. I shoved my phone into my jacket and sprinted through the storm, my sneakers slapping wet pavement. By the time I reached our 5th-floor walk-up, I was soaked, my breath ragged. The door creaked open, and there he was, Caleb, sitting on the couch, his knees pulled to his chest, eyes red-rimmed and distant. The room was dark except for a single lamp casting long shadows across his sketchbooks scattered on the floor. "Caleb." My voice was soft, cautious. "You okay?" He didn't look at me, just stared at the rain streaking the window. I didn't know who else to call. He whispered, "My dad. He found out." My stomach dropped. I knew what found out meant. Caleb had never spoken much about his family, but I'd pieced together enough from late-night talks over cheap wine. His parents were traditional, rooted in values that didn't leave room for a son who loved men. I'd seen the way Caleb's shoulders tensed whenever his phone lit up with a call from home, the way he'd force a smile and change the subject. I sat beside him, the couch dipping under my weight. "What happened?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "He saw a picture," Caleb said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Me and someone at Pride last month. He called me tonight. Said I'm a disgrace. Said I'm not his son anymore." The words hit like a punch. I wanted to say something profound, something to fix it, but all I could manage was, "I'm so sorry, Caleb." I reached out, hesitating, then rested my hand on his shoulder. His body trembled under my touch, and before I could pull back, he leaned into me, his head resting against my chest. "Elliot," he murmured, "just stay here, please." I froze, my pulse hammering. This wasn't the Caleb I knew, the guarded artist who kept his heart locked away. This was someone raw, vulnerable, and reaching for me. I wrapped my arms around him, the damp fabric of my jacket clinging to his shirt. The room felt smaller, the air thick with something unspoken. Outside, the storm raged on, but in here, it was just us, tangled in the quiet. We sat like that for what felt like hours, his breathing steadying against me. I didn't dare move, afraid to break whatever fragile thing was holding us together. "You're not a disgrace," I said finally, my voice low. You're incredible, Caleb. You're kind and talented." And I stopped, my throat tight. I wanted to say more, to tell him how his quiet presence had become the anchor of my chaotic life. But the words wouldn't come. He lifted his head, his dark eyes searching mine. "You really think that?" he asked, his voice cracking. "I know it," I said, and for a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in his gaze, something that mirrored the ache I'd been ignoring for months. I'd always told myself my feelings for Caleb were just a crush, a fleeting thing born of late-night talks and shared coffee mugs. But now, with him so close, his warmth seeping into me, I wasn't sure anymore. The lamp flickered, casting his face in soft gold. "Elliot," he whispered, his hand brushing mine. "I don't know how to do this. Any of this. You don't have to do it alone." I said, my voice barely steady. His fingers curled around mine, tentative at first, then firm, like he was holding on to something he couldn't bear to lose. My heart stuttered. This was dangerous territory. Roommates didn't hold hands like this, didn't look at each other like the world was about to shift. But before I could process it, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. Thank you, he said, so softly I almost missed it. Then, quieter still, I don't deserve you. I wanted to argue, to tell him he deserved everything, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I tightened my grip on his hand, letting the silence say what I couldn't. The rain slowed to a drizzle, and in the dark, with Caleb's heartbeat against mine, I felt something new stirring, a hope I wasn't ready to name. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the window, painting the apartment in hues of gold and regret. Caleb was gone from the couch, his sketchbook open to a half-finished drawing of a stormy sky. I sat up, my neck stiff from sleeping upright. His words from last night echoing in my head, I don't deserve you. My fingers still tingled where his had been. I found him in the kitchen, stirring a pot of coffee with the same quiet focus he gave his art. Morning, I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me, laced with something too raw. He glanced up, his expression guarded again, like last night had been a dream. Hey, he said, offering a small smile. Thanks for, last night. I nodded, unsure how to bridge the gap between the Caleb who'd clung to me in the dark and the one standing here now, distant and composed. You want to talk about it? I asked, leaning against the counter. He shook his head, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. Not really. I just need to figure things out. I wanted to push, to ask what things meant, but I didn't. Instead, I took the mug he offered, our fingers brushing for a split second. That touch brief. Electric sent my heart racing again. I cursed myself silently. This was Caleb, my roommate, my friend. Getting tangled up in feelings was a recipe for disaster, especially now, when he was hurting. But over the next few days, the air between us shifted. Caleb started lingering in the apartment more, sketching at the table while I worked on my scripts. We'd talk small things at first, like the best bodega sandwiches or the latest Broadway flop, but soon, it was deeper. He told me about growing up in San Francisco, caught between his parents' expectations and his own truth. I told him about my small-town Virginia roots, how I'd left behind a family who loved me but never quite understood me. One night, as we sat on the fire escape, the city humming below, he said, I've never told anyone this, but I used to draw you, back when we first moved in. I blinked, caught off guard. Me? Why? He shrugged, his cheeks flushing. You were alive, always talking, laughing, filling up the room. I wanted to capture that. My chest tightened. I'd spent so long thinking Caleb was the quiet one, the mystery, but now I saw he'd been watching me, too. Can I see them? I asked, my voice soft. He hesitated, then nodded. Back inside, he pulled a sketchbook from under his bed, flipping to a page of pencil drawings, me, sprawled on the couch with a script, me laughing over a beer, me staring out the window with a look I didn't recognize, hopeful, maybe, or lost. Each stroke was careful, intimate, like he'd poured himself into every line. Caleb, I said, my throat tight. These are incredible. He looked away, his fingers fidgeting. I didn't know if you'd think it was weird. It's not weird, I said, too quickly. It's beautiful. Our eyes met, and for a moment, the world stopped. I wanted to reach for him, to close the distance, but fear held me back. What if this ruined everything? What if I was reading him wrong? Before I could decide, his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced at it, and his face fell. "It's my sister," he said, his voice flat. "She says my dad's coming to New York. He wants to see me." The air grew heavy. "When?" I asked. "Tomorrow," he said, and the words sounded like a sentence. That night, I couldn't sleep. The thought of Caleb facing his father alone gnawed at me. I'd seen what those words disgrace, not my son, had done to him. By morning, I'd made up my mind. "I'm coming with you," I told him over breakfast. He shook his head, his jaw tight. "Elliot, you don't have to. I want to." I cut in. "You don't have to face him alone." He looked at me, his eyes searching, and for the first time, I saw gratitude mixed with something else, something warm, unguarded. "Okay," he said softly. "Thank you." We met his father at a small diner in Manhattan, the kind with sticky tables and overpriced coffee. Mr. Nguyen was stern, his face carved with lines of disappointment. Caleb sat across from him, his hands clenched under the table, while I lingered nearby, close enough to hear but not intrude. "I'm not here to fight," Mr. Nguyen said, his voice cold. "I just want to understand why you'd throw away your family for this." Caleb's shoulders tensed, but his voice was steady. "I'm not throwing anything away, Dad. I'm just trying to live my truth." "Your truth?" His father scoffed. "You think this is truth? You're confused. Caleb, you need to come home. Fix this." I wanted to jump in, to defend him, but Caleb's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. "I'm not confused," he said, his voice rising. "I'm gay. I've always been, and I'm not going to hide it anymore." The diner went quiet, every head turning. Mr. Nguyen's face darkened, and for a moment, I thought he'd walk out. Instead, he leaned forward, his voice low. "You'll regret this. You'll be alone." Caleb's grip on my hand tightened, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. "He's not alone," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "He has me." Mr. Nguyen's eyes snapped to me, sharp and unyielding, like I'd just stepped into a battlefield. "And who are you?" he demanded, his voice slicing through the diner's hum. "I'm Elliot," I said, my heart pounding. "Caleb's roommate, his friend, and someone who cares about him." Caleb's hand was still in mine, his fingers trembling but steady. I could feel the weight of his father's stare, the judgment in it, but I didn't look away. Neither did Caleb. For the first time, I saw defiance in his eyes, a fire I hadn't known he had. Mr. Nguyen shook his head, muttering something in Vietnamese under his breath. "This is a mistake," he said, standing abruptly. "Caleb, when you're ready to be reasonable, you know where to find me." He walked out, leaving a 20 on the table like it was an afterthought. The silence that followed was suffocating. Caleb let go of my hand, his shoulders slumping. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he said, staring at the table. "Don't be," I said, my voice fierce. "You were incredible. You stood up to him." He gave a hollow laugh. "Yeah, and now I've lost my family." "You haven't lost me," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. His eyes met mine, wide and searching, and for a moment, I thought he might say something that would change everything. But he just nodded, his expression unreadable. Back at the apartment, the air felt different, charged with the weight of what we'd faced together. Caleb retreated to his room, claiming he needed to sketch, but I could hear the soft creak of his bed as he sat in silence. I wanted to knock, to check on him, but I gave him space. busying myself with a script that refused to come together. Days turned into weeks, and Caleb grew quieter. His sketches darker jagged lines and stormy skies. I tried to pull him out of it, dragging him to coffee shops or late-night pizza runs. But the spark in him was dim. I hated seeing him like this. Hated the way his father's words had carved a wound I couldn't heal. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching some terrible rom-com, I couldn't take it anymore. "Caleb," I said, turning to him. "Talk to me. Please." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know how to move past this. Elliot. My dad. He was my hero growing up. Now he looks at me like I'm nothing." "You're not nothing," I said, my voice breaking. "You're everything to me." The words hung between us, raw and reckless. His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought I'd ruined everything. But then he leaned forward, closing the distance, and kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was testing the waters. Then it deepened, desperate and hungry, like we'd both been holding our breath for too long. My hands found his face. His fingers tangled in my hair, and the world melted away. It was just us, messy and real, pouring everything we hadn't said into that moment. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "Elliot," he whispered, my name soft on his lips. "I've wanted this for so long." "Me too," I admitted, my heart racing. "But, are you sure? After everything?" He smiled, small but genuine. "I'm sure. You make me feel like I can be myself." That night, we fell asleep on the couch, tangled together under a blanket. The cities hum a quiet lullaby. For the first time in weeks, Caleb's face was peaceful, his sketchbook forgotten on the floor. But peace didn't last. A week later, Caleb got a letter from his sister, Lynn. His father was sick, heart trouble, serious enough to land him in the hospital. Lynn begged Caleb to come home to San Francisco, to try and make amends. I saw the conflict in his eyes, the pull between love and pain. "I have to go," he told me one night, his voice heavy. "He's my dad, Elliot, even after everything." "I get it," I said, though my chest ached at the thought of him leaving. "But I'm coming with you." He shook his head. "This is something I need to do alone." The words stung, but I nodded, swallowing the hurt. "Just promise you'll come back." He kissed me, slow and deliberate, like he was memorizing me. "I promise," he said. The day he left, the apartment felt too big, too empty. I tried to write, to lose myself in work, but every word felt hollow. I kept picturing Caleb facing his father, alone, carrying the weight of years of unspoken truths. I wanted to be there, to hold his hand like he'd held mine. But all I could do was wait. Caleb was gone for 10 days. Each one felt like a lifetime. He'd text me updates short, guarded messages about hospital visits and tense conversations with his sister, but nothing about his father. I tried to keep busy, throwing myself into my play, but my mind was with him, 3,000 miles away. When he finally came back, he looked different, older. Somehow, his eyes carrying a weight I couldn't read. I met him at the airport, my heart in my throat as he walked through the terminal. He dropped his bag and pulled me into a hug, holding me so tight I could feel his heartbeat. "I missed you," he whispered, and I felt the world right itself again. Back at the apartment, we sat on the fire escape, the city sparkling below. He told me everything, how his father had barely spoken to him at first, how Lynn had tried to mediate, how the hospital's sterile walls had forced them to confront things they'd both avoided for years. He didn't apologize, Caleb said, his voice steady but soft. But he listened. For the first time, He really listened. I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. What did you tell him? The truth. He said. That I'm gay. That I'm happy. That I'm in love with you. My breath caught. You love me. He smiled, his eyes bright despite the exhaustion. Yeah, Elliot. I do. I kissed him then, under the stars, the city's chaos fading into the background. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a promise. A future. A life we could build together. I love you too, I said, the words feeling like freedom. In the months that followed, Caleb's relationship with his father didn't heal overnight, but it softened. They started talking. Small steps toward understanding. Caleb's sketches grew brighter, filled with color and light. And I found my own words flowing again. My play taking shape with a story inspired by us two people finding courage in each other. One night, as we lay in bed, Caleb's head on my chest, he whispered, "You were my anchor, Elliot, through all of it." I kissed his forehead, my heart full. And you're mine. We weren't perfect. There were still fights, doubts, moments when the world felt too heavy. But we faced it together, holding on in the dark, whispering each other's names like a vow. And in that quiet, messy, beautiful space, we built a home not just in our apartment, but in each other. The rain came again one evening, softer this time, a gentle patter against the window. Caleb pulled me close, his breath warm against my ear. "Thank you," he said, "for being my safe place." I held him tighter, knowing I'd found mine too. In a world that could be cruel, we'd carved out something unbreakably, a love that didn't just survive, but thrived, fierce and unapologetic, in the heart of the storm.